Hey David, Paul Candace here. You asked a question, a very good question, and that was how did the rot on the decks go undetected? And I thought rather than try to explain it to you, it'd be best just to do a stack up of the old parts and let you see for yourself. We encountered, first thing we encountered was some rot on this plank. So this is going to be underneath where the rub rail goes. So what we intended to do was just route this and put a spline in. And so in order to gain access for that, the other thing we noticed was that this had been screwed with before. This had been repaired once before by somebody. And this piece of wood right here is actually a different species. This piece of wood is a different species than the original. All right, and so there was another piece of original. I didn't go dumpster diving for it, but there was another piece of the original that went in here. And so you had an original piece a foot long, and then you had this wrong piece 2 or 3 foot long, and then you had the original piece back here again. So let me show you kind of the whole view. So we decided, well, hey, we're going to fix this obvious mistake in the repair at the same time. So we took this, and then we're also seeing some rot on the surface back here, and it goes about halfway through. So hey, we'll get all of this by putting one new piece on here. So we pulled this guy off, and when we pulled this guy off, we found rot in the shelf board right here. And so we've repaired that. We've routed out all the rot and put a block in, epoxied a block in. So and that was all. That was all so we could address this area. I sometimes call it spider cracking. You know, what a windshield does, you know, when it cracks, and then you know, one project becomes some more projects. So, and of course, in order to get a router in here, this piece had to come up too, because I couldn't get a router that close. So anyway, so we took this one up, and we found rot. Found rot in the surface of this portion of the shelf board. We got rot right here, and as you can see, there's no rot visible on the underside. This is where it glues, where a joint was glued in there. There's no rot on the underside. We got it right here. So we said, well, let's just go ahead and we'll cut that guy off, and we'll replace him. So, but when we took this piece off here, it extended up to here, and we found all kinds of rot in this shelf board. And so we said, okay, well, this one we had anticipated that we were going to take this one off. And it has this chunk missing right here, and it has a chunk right here, and it had, you know, we were just gonna like cut this guy off right here and do what we call a Dutchman with the same species of wood. We would just add back good material here. But when we took that off, what we found on this was that the edge of this is rotted. So, I mean, it just crumbles away. So no longer were we going to be able to reuse this piece. We're going to have to make a new one of those, and that's called a covering board. These are called covering boards that go down along the outside. And what's underneath that is the shelf board, and it's full of rot. And so now, how do we not discover that until we took this off? So, you know, we crawl in the backside, and we've looked at the backside, we inspected, and the backside looked fine. And this is typical. I mean, it's frustrating, especially for the guy paying the bill. Especially, it's frustrating for us when we want to get a boat out, but we can't because we're not going to put it together substandard. We got to stick our name on it, and this rot would have come through. This would have caused you a problem in a year or two. So you would have had a $20,000 strip and refinish, and or thereabouts, and this rot would be showing up and ruining that work that we did that would otherwise last 10 to 20 years. So then when we pulled that piece up, and here's more shelf board. So when we pulled that piece up, of course, we found this is called a breast hook. It puts let me put it back in a position here. So this is the breast hook. So when we took this piece off, we found all kinds of rot in the edge of the breast hook. Matter of fact, it was no longer attached to the shelf board. And so I'll pull that guy out and show you what we found there. And of course that was all covered because all these little screws are where the deck planks actually fastened in to these little, at the point of these little screw holes. And this was actually, and so that's the actual change in elevation between the two pieces, and your deck planks came in here and filled that in. So it's like, well, that's going to have to be replaced. So that came off. So this piece had to come off of the nose so that we could get that and replace that. And this one, I don't know if it's been replaced already, but this one looks reusable. It's a little dark back here, so something's starting to work on it, but we can treat that, and that's not so far gone. It can be treated. But again, looking at this, looking at your shelf board, even this piece of shelf board, which is a total loss on this side. This is the upside, where the water was coming in and staying. On the bottom side, it looked fine. So, like I say, that's how that occurs. Yeah, it's frustrating for me too, because I got to give the customer the bad news, and I don't know of any good way of giving a customer bad news. So, of course, when we pulled this piece off and the breast hook off, we found in the end of this covering board the same situation that we had in the end of the other covering board. And again, we thought, well, that's no big deal. We'll just cut this off right here and put a new piece of mahogany on it, glue it on, and we'll find the same grain structure. And unless you know it's there, you'll never see the seam. Well, in order to do that, you got to take it off. So we took it off, and then here's what we found. We found that this one also is rotted on the inside edge. And I'm just scraping that away with my finger. It's rotted on the inside edge. And this shelf board is heavily damaged. As well as, we built the new pieces. I don't know if I've still got the old pieces or not, because they literally came out, they crumbled out of here. But we have these new bows that will go along the edge. They'll go along the edge right here. I guess I'm off on my screws, but anyway, they'll go along the edge right here, and that's the outside. That goes around the outside edge of that. I think we probably got some pictures where it'll become obvious where those go. So we got these already laminated and made, ready to go in place when we started reassembling that. And by the way, our woodworker on this is just got married, and he and his wife are on their honeymoon. So again, this shelf board, obviously it's in way better shape than the other side. So this shelf board looks great on the back side as well. Try to get it where I can show you this one. And the good news is that this shelf board back here doesn't exhibit any rot in this piece like it did on the other side. But this shelf board, pulling it out, turning it over, the only visible area on the back side, there's some water staining, but I mean, you wouldn't even poke this with a screwdriver or anything and feel any rot. So that's how that happens. The other place that we found rot was in the stem, and what we're doing here is we have removed, this is the stem that's part of the stem that's actually doing the work, right here. This probably does some work, but it's mainly decorative. And so and the plywood on the back side of this then showed some rot. It just showed discoloration, but as we poked it, it was rotted. So we got rot in the stem itself here. We had rot here. We got rot up here. And what we're doing is, because it's decorative and not really doing a structural job by itself anyway. I mean, these planks are landed on the stem, but what structurally is supporting the stem is this piece here in the back, this structural stem. And so we're going to be putting a block in here, core drilling this, putting a plug in there, core drilling this, putting a plug in, then core drilling, overlapping the old plug, the plug we just installed, then putting the plug in there. And of course, when we core drill, that will treat it with a borax solution and some clear penetrating epoxy sealer. And that should, if we missed anything in the surgery, then that chemotherapy of the borax solution, which kills rot, kills fungus, and the clear penetrating epoxy sealer, those two in combination should prevent any further decay. And then the pieces that we'll add the pieces that we add in here, that we put back in, will add to the structural integrity, which isn't all that necessary up here. I think I wore that point out. But anyhow, so I just wanted to show you how that happens. I know it's frustrating. It busts the budget. I know that's frustrating, but there's really no way to see that ahead of time other than just sign up for the boat being dismantled and then determine, I suppose, to pay us to dismantle it and then determine if you want to restore it or not. But you know where we are, we're too far down the road to even think about not finishing it. In my mind, you could put it up for sale.'t will want it if you wanted to do that, if that's of a concern. I thought I'd go ahead and show you the engine. We've got it all ready to roll. We had to order a new bearing for the transmission. This is a pilot bearing that goes on right here and runs on the inside, on a race on the inside of the transmission right here. So that we're ready to do. And there wasn't a distributor in the we're also, these engine mounts had crapped out, so Jason's also changing the engine mounts to new engine mounts. This one is slipped, this one's getting ready to go. And what happens is you align the engine with bad engine mounts, and the engine mounts continue to deteriorate and fall, then your engine's no longer aligned, and you're setting yourself up for a prop shaft failure. I've actually got a shaft log that was worn out by the prop. And this engine mount, you can really see the failure on this one. So this is your new exhaust manifold that we had to purchase. There wasn't one, as you recall, there was not one in the crate. I noticed that right away. I think I noticed that before we ever left. Down there in Louisiana with the boat, and then we're also looking for a distributor. There wasn't one in the crate, and so I had one, and we thought we would use it, but it's evidently for a reverse rotation engine, so we're not going to be able to use this guy. So we're looking right now for the correct distributor. We're going to probably run this guy today because we have another engine in-house, another M, and we're considering pulling the distributor off of it long enough to run your engine. And then while we're hunting your distributor down. All right. So that answers question question 2, and then a little more information on your engine. This is not your steering wheel. This one is this one's similar to the condition yours was in when we got it. All these cracks. If it's just a hairline crack, we actually have been able to repair these. These are gone, and we normally repair them ourselves, and it's about $900. But this one was completely gone. Yours was completely gone. I've got pictures of yours before and after. Is well, I've sent you an after picture as well, I know, and it's in this box. But anyway, so we had to set. Not only was yours cracked like this, but yours was bent. This one, one side was bent out and the other side bent in. So, and your beauty tube was it's pretty much completely gone, rotted off. Rusted off at one end. Yeah, here it is. So there's your beauty tube, and that's the end that carries a bearing. So I'm planning on using the beauty tube off of that other the beauty tube. It's corroded and nearly crushed here. Anyway, I'm planning on using this beauty tube off of this steering column for you. So anyhow, the question was, question 1 was had we applied the down payment to the final payment? Well, the down payment and the final payment are not. The down payment is this guy won't touch a wheel until we got some skin in the game. So we put $750 down. He goes ahead and does the wheel, and then he bills us for the balance. And the balance was $1,700. His total bill was $2,300 something. So we don't apply the down payment to the final payment, because the final payment and the down payment together are what the cost of having the wheel restored is. So that answers questions 1 and 2. The other one's what's the final number, and what is what's the date. And I've been working on those, and I'll give you a call here in very shortly. Thanks.